Have you ever walked into a room, met someone for the first time, and within 5 minutes felt like you'd known them your whole life? Not because they were drop-dead gorgeous. Not because they drove a Ferrari. Not because they had the whole room laughing. Just something about them felt different, safe, real. And when they walked away, you caught yourself thinking, I really like that person. I don't even know why. I just do. Here's what's wild. Most people have zero idea why this happens. They spend their whole lives thinking likability is like height. You either got it or you don't. Some people are just born with that magnetic energy and everyone else is stuck on the outside looking in. But psychology tells a completely different story. The most likable people you've ever met aren't operating on luck or genetics. They're doing something very specific. Something that triggers deep, almost automatic responses inside the human brain. And today I'm going to break down exactly what that is. But I want to save the most powerful one for last. Because there's one psychological trigger that sits above everything else. One behavior that makes people like you almost without consciously realizing it. And the crazy part? Most people are doing the complete opposite every single day. But first, let's destroy the biggest myth about likability. Most people think being likable means being impressive. They think if they can just say the right things, name drop the right places, flex the right accomplishments, people will naturally gravitate toward them. Dead wrong. In fact, the harder you try to impress someone, the less likable you become. You know exactly the type. The person who can't get through a single conversation without bringing up how much they make, where they vacationed, who they know, what they've built. First it sounds interesting. Then it starts to feel like you're sitting through an advertisement. You're not having a conversation anymore, you're watching a presentation. And connection dies the second it starts to feel transactional. Because here's the truth about human beings, we are not looking for perfection. We are looking for familiarity. We are looking for the feeling that says, this person gets me. Psychologists actually have a name for this. They call it the familiarity effect. The more comfortable and familiar someone feels, the more your brain automatically trusts them. It's why strangers who remind you of an old friend immediately feel safer. It's why office friendships form almost without effort. Repeated exposure creates comfort. Comfort creates trust. Trust creates likability. But here's the thing. Truly magnetic people don't wait for familiarity to build over months. They create it within minutes. And the way they do it is almost embarrassingly simple. They look for common ground. While everyone else is walking into conversations trying to stand out, be unique, be memorable, likable people are doing something completely different. They're searching for the thing you both have in common. A show you both love. A struggle you've both been through. A city you've both lived in. A feeling you've both had. The moment someone feels you're like me, something shifts in their brain. The walls come down. The guard drops. And they stop evaluating you and start actually connecting with you. But that's only the surface. Because the next behavior is where most people completely blow it, and they don't even know they're doing it. Think about the last time you talked to someone who never actually listened. They interrupted. They redirected. Every single story circled back to something that happened to them. You'd share something personal and 3 seconds later the conversation was somehow about their life. Now think about the last time you talked to someone who actually listened, who asked follow-up questions, who remembered what you said 2 minutes ago and connected it to something you said 10 minutes ago, who made you feel like, in that moment, you were the most interesting person in the room. Which one do you remember more? Research on this is absolutely clear. People do not walk away from conversations thinking about who said the smartest things. They walk away thinking about how heard they felt. Read that again. How heard they felt. I was sitting in a coffee shop once, completely by accident watching 2 strangers have a conversation nearby. One person barely said a word. The other did almost all the talking. But when they got up to leave, I heard the talkative one say, and I'll never forget this, "You are genuinely one of the most interesting people I've ever met." The listener had said maybe 15 sentences the entire time. But they asked great questions. They leaned in. They made the other person feel important. That's what people remember. Not your stories. Your attention. Now here's something most people never think about. Before you even open your mouth, before you say hello, before you shake hands, before you introduce yourself, people have already started forming an opinion about you. Your body is already talking. Crossed arms. Tense jaw. Shoulders pulled in. Eyes darting around the room. Your body is broadcasting a signal, and that signal says, stay back. But relaxed posture. Open body language. A calm, present expression. That broadcasts something completely different. That says, I'm approachable. I'm safe. Come talk to me. The human brain has one job in every new social situation, and that job is to answer one question as fast as possible. Is this person safe? The moment your body answers yes, everything becomes easier. People lean toward you instead of away. They engage instead of escape. They stay in the conversation instead of looking for an exit. Comfort is the foundation of likability. And body language builds it before words ever get the chance. But now we need to talk about the one thing almost nobody does, and it might be the most underrated social skill that exists. Validation. Not agreement. Not advice. Not fixing. Validation. There is a massive difference between making someone feel agreed with and making someone feel understood. And most people confuse the two constantly. Someone tells you about a terrible week. And you say, oh man, that's rough. But hey, at least it's not as bad as what happened to me last Tuesday. Done. Connection severed. They feel dismissed. They feel like they were just waiting for their turn to listen to your problems. But what if you just said, that sounds absolutely exhausting. How are you holding up? Everything changes. Because in that moment you didn't try to fix it. You didn't minimize it. You didn't one-up it. You just said, your feelings make sense. I see you. And that is one of the most powerful things one human being can do for another. Highly likable people are not running around handing out solutions. They're handing out something far more valuable, the feeling of being seen. And people will follow that feeling anywhere. But here's the part one promised you. The piece that sits above everything else. It's not confidence. It's not humor. It's not status or looks or the ability to walk into a room and command attention. The single biggest reason people instantly like someone is this. That person makes them feel good about themselves. That's it. That's the whole psychology. Think about your favorite person. The one whose calls you always pick up. The one you actually look forward to seeing. Why do you love being around them? Go deeper than the obvious stuff. I'll tell you why. Because when you're with them, you don't feel judged. You don't feel like you need to perform. You don't feel like you're in competition. You feel accepted. You feel interesting. You feel like the version of yourself you actually like. The most likable people on earth have mastered one skill that nobody teaches. They walk into every conversation thinking, how do I make this person feel comfortable? How do I make them feel valued? How do I make them feel interesting? Not how do I impress them? Not what do I say next? Not what do they think of me? All the attention goes outward. And because of that, people can't help but be drawn in. The people you enjoy most in life aren't the richest or the smartest or the most accomplished. They're the ones who leave you feeling energized instead of drained, confident instead of insecure, seen instead of invisible. So the next time you walk into a room and meet someone new, stop trying to impress them. Stop auditioning. Stop worrying about whether they like you. Just ask yourself one question. How can I make this person feel like they matter? Because the moment you stop chasing likability, that is exactly when you become someone impossible to forget.